We decided very quickly that we were just going to sell everything and take our hatchback and our 2 dogs and just drive across and start fresh. Today I am sitting down to answer some of your questions about my cross-country move. If this is the first video of mine that you are watching, I just moved across Canada to the west coast. I actually moved to Vancouver Island. Definitely go back if you're interested and watch some of the vlogs that I have put out. My most recent vlog was just the actual move across Canada. So traveling out here, we took about a week to get out here. So to give you a little bit of a background before we jump into the more specific questions, basically I moved with my boyfriend and we lived in southern Ontario. We were renting an apartment in the Kitchener-Waterloo area, and our unit was purchased by a new owner. It was actually ended up being a miscommunication, but we initially thought that the new owner was wanting to move in after our lease agreement was up. So we had thought that we had to move no matter what at the end of our lease. So we started talking and having the conversation about, well, if we have to move, are we going to rent a new place around here? We have both always felt very drawn to the West Coast. I don't really know how it came about, but one of us just said, what if we move to BC? You know, we've kind of always talked about it since the beginning of our relationship. It's something that we've also both individually before being together had thought of doing on our own. And so again, as we thought that we were going to have to move, we thought, well, why not just do it and try it out? I don't know if it's just an Ontario thing or a Canada thing. A lot of people talk about moving to BC, and obviously a lot of people don't actually do it. So we started talking to some friends, seeing if maybe they would want to come out with us, if we could rent a house together. And obviously BC is a very big place. We didn't know exactly where in BC we wanted to be. So we thought about Vancouver, we thought about Victoria. Something that we were really looking for out of BC is being surrounded by more nature. We also had previously lived in an apartment right downtown Ottawa. So we were both just very much done with the city life. We also have 2 huskies. So being in an apartment and then being in like a townhouse where we didn't have an outdoor space for them, we made it work and went for lots of walks, but it's not an ideal situation. Ultimately decided on the island or like the Victoria area to be closer to nature, to not be in a city, to be able to explore a lot, to be able to have somewhere like a house. Like that was really important for us, to have a bigger space, a house, as opposed to a tiny condo, not only for the dogs, but also for our work. Currently, we both work from home, so it's a lot to just be in a very small space together when we're both working from home. We decided pretty quickly that we wanted to be on the island, and then again, we both work from home, so we just thought, well, we don't even have to be in Victoria, you know, we can really look wherever. If our priority is space and nature, then, and we have a couple of friends on the island, but we don't really know anywhere. So we were pretty open to anywhere on the island, and we essentially made a big list of all of the things that we wanted out of a house or out of a place to live. And I need to find the list, because I think we really did find, if not all, majority of the things that were on the list, which is just would be a cool thing to look back on. A lot of people have asked us why we did it, and I just laid out some of the reasons why, but it was also more of a why not than a why, I think. We were both always very pulled to come out here. Why not give it a try and see if we like it? And the worst case scenario is that we're not going to like it and we're going to move again. But we are both very much over Ontario in general, I think. While editing this, I realized that I didn't even talk about, I would probably say, the main reason why we moved here, and that is that southern Ontario and most of Canada is cold AF in the winter and gets a lot of snow. And the climate of Vancouver Island is a lot milder than even Vancouver is. You're less likely to get snow on the island most parts than you are even in Vancouver. The average temperatures on Vancouver Island never get below 0. Again, obviously that's average temperatures. So although it rains more here, snow and the cold was also a huge factor for us. We both really don't like the snow or it being cold. Basically the mildest climate in all of Canada, so we're still in Canada, but with essentially the mildest or the warmest that we could get. How to plan to move far from home. I don't really feel like we planned. It was really more of just deciding than a planning. When we decided that we were going to do it, the first step was to let our landlords know when we would be moving out. Then we started looking up how much it would cost to get a truck, or would we get a container to ship our things out in, or how we were going to do it. And very soon into looking up the costs of the different options that there were, we decided that basically our stuff wasn't worth the cost of any of those things. We decided very quickly that we were just going to sell everything and take our hatchback and our 2 dogs and just drive across and start fresh, which is a little bit crazy. We were already in a pretty small place and we knew that we were going to be moving to a house. And I felt that we had outgrown a lot of the things that we had anyways. I didn't feel a huge attachment to a lot of those things, and I thought it would be fun to just start new. I think if you let yourself think too much about it, and I have to make sure that we do this or that, it just like, it won't ever happen because you're trying to plan too much. So we just decided and we just figured it out as we went along and I don't know, did it. Did you find a job before moving, or is your job all remote online? So as I mentioned, both of our jobs are completely remote and online, and I think we're actually both going to look for jobs here in the little town that we're in, just because, I mean, with us both working from home, there's just not a lot of opportunity to meet people. We both think that it will just be a fun thing to do, to have a little part-time job, to get to know people, get to know the area and the community better. Lucky and very thankful in the fact that we both did kind of have the flexibility to be able to just pick up and go. But at the same time, even if you do have a job that's not remote, there's tons of stuff available. You can start applying before you go out. I know a friend that just moved to Vancouver and she started applying for jobs and everything, and got a job before she even had a house. So also just like, don't let that fear stop you, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Did you buy a house in BC or are you currently renting? We are renting. We are gonna have roommates. Some of our friends are gonna be coming out as well. I don't know how much I will show that on social media or in my videos in general, because obviously I am the one choosing to put my life online and they are not. So yes, we will have some roommates coming out. They're not here yet. The house that we ended up finding, we are signed to only a 6-month lease. We figured because we don't know the area and we don't know how much we're gonna like it, let's do the 6-month lease to start, and we can always go month to month, extend after that, or then we can move and try a different area in 6 months. Why did you decide to only bring stuff that could fit in a car instead of renting a U-Haul? We just looked up the cost of moving, the cost of U-Haul, everything like that. There's a lot of different factors, of course. We had rented a truck, then one of us would have to be driving the truck and one of us would have to drive the car because we need to get our car across the country as well. And the dogs, just like flying, we're not gonna fly the dogs across the country when we also have a car. Ultimately, we just decided that our things weren't worth that and weren't worth the trouble. We also knew starting that if we were gonna be driving across the country that we wanted to kind of make a trip out of it and make stops. We didn't want to just basically drive straight across. You know, if we're doing it, let's make it fun and make a trip out of it. And although it is crazy to sell all of your things and only have things that literally fit in a hatchback car along with 2 humans and 2 dogs, it was a really, really cool experience to get rid of everything and be very intentional with the things that we do have and think about what's really important for us, what we want to be bringing into the new chapter of our lives. I don't know, I don't regret it at all. It was a really cool experience to do all of that, to get rid of all of our things. It was a really cool experience to drive all the way across, to literally think about the fact that everything that we owned was in our car with us. And it's been really cool starting brand new with essentially nothing here. For the first week, it was a little bit weird to have no furniture and stuff, but we're feeling more settled now. And yeah, I would highly recommend. What worked best? What would you do differently? General moving, packing, etc. The first thing that I can think of what worked best was we actually got this bag thing for the top of the car. That bag was so amazing. Also, vacuum seal bags. We basically vacuum sealed all of our clothing, all of our bedding, blankets, you know, that kind of stuff. And then all of the vacuum seal bag stuff was able to fit in the bag on the top of the car. Those two things were amazing. I wouldn't have changed a single thing about it. I think the amount of time we spent driving each day, each stop was perfect. It was honestly amazing. Some days we woke up and it was just starting to rain, so we packed up really quickly and left. I wouldn't change a single thing about how we did it. I would just say if you were going to do it, make sure that you consider that, especially if you're going to be up in the mountains like Banff. Just consider the fact that it gets a lot colder than normal, even though it's like August. And that's just something that I didn't think about, and we weren't, I would say, fully prepared for how cold it was gonna be overnight. How did you balance manifesting / trusting the universe and actively looking for places? Initially, before we even started really looking at houses, we made a list of everything that we wanted, and one day I will try and find that list. It was everything from wanting mountain views out of our windows, wanting a house, wanting a backyard for the dogs, how updated we wanted the house, wanted it like neutral and bright and lots of windows. Yeah, so we made a whole list of everything that we wanted. There were some things on our list that we were flexible on and that were more of like a wish type of thing, and there were some things that we knew that we were non-negotiable on. I have to give it to Isaac. He was the main person looking for houses. He would basically look at houses. We had a group chat of all of us. He would look for houses. If he found one that he liked or that he thought, you know, met our wish list, he would send it to us. We would all send our opinions. So we were actively looking, but we also had kind of like our manifestation list. And to be honest, I'm very proud of myself for how I handled it, because in the past I would get really obsessed and like attached to one place that we found. Like if there was one place that we found that I really liked, I would get really obsessed and really attached to that, and I would be really upset if we didn't get it. And this time around, I just came with the approach of, we have our list, I know what we want. It was trusting, even when we found a place that I absolutely loved, that even if it didn't work out, and I wouldn't let myself get obsessed or attached to it, because I would know that there's a million other houses, and if we don't get this one, I very much had the attitude of, if we don't get this one, then something better is gonna happen. I can't say enough good things about this house. We love it. Actively looking every single day, probably multiple times a day that we were looking, but I just didn't let myself get too hung up or attached to any house, and just came back to the trust that I know that we would find something perfect, and we did. What do you wish you did differently when driving across the country? Nothing. Honestly, nothing. And refer to the previous vlog for more details about where we stopped, how long the drives were. So yeah, nothing. How did you decide what to keep? What questions did you ask yourself? Most large things were just right off the bat, not even a question, because we didn't have room for it. We have a hatchback. I think the biggest question was if I love it. Do I love it? Is this in line with the person that I'm trying to be? Do I need this? Have I used it? It was an amazing process to go through of asking yourself those questions about every single thing that you own. If you guys have any other questions about it, about the move, about moving in general, about moving to the West Coast or to Vancouver Island specifically, definitely leave them down below.